it's become popular to mix personal views with media coverage, splitting each story into a left versus right issue. What happens when stories don't fit that narrative? Well, they bury them. Join the Honey Badgers as we discuss feminist media bias. As always, the show will be available for download after the broadcast at honeybadgerbrigade.com.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular, this is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Tonight's topic is feminist media bias. We've got a great show tonight. As usual, we've got our wonderful panelists. We've got Hannah Wallen. How you doing, Hannah?
Hello. Sorry, my computer's trying to be slow tonight, so it didn't want to unmute when I clicked.
Yeah. Hannah Wallen runs a blog called Breaking the Glasses.
Yes, Breaking the Glasses.
And we've got...
Which I actually haven't posted in like a month. Because I've been writing for Honey Badger Brigade and A Voice for Men lately.
And if you do want to see some of Hannah Wallen's writing, she has her own title card on Honey Badger Brigade. It's called The Word from a Nerd, and it's got some great stuff in it. You can get there at www.honeybadgerbrigade.com.
All right. And we've got Karen Strawn. You there, Karen?
Yeah, I'm here. You can hear me still?
Yes, we can.
All
we were
right.
having issues earlier, but we're fine now.
Beautiful, beautiful. As most of you probably know, I'm Girl Ride Sweat. My channel is Girl Ride Sweat on YouTube, and I have not uploaded a video with any reasonable content in a long time. Hopefully that will be soon to be rectified. So please don't unsubscribe out of frustration.
Damn it, Karen. We depend on you. You're dead to us.
Yeah, I'm almost myself.
Yeah. That's okay. We love you anyway. All right, Allison.
My name is
Allison Tiemann.
My name is Allison. I'm otherwise known as Typhon Blue for those of you who've been, I guess, knowing me for a decade, that I have been on the internet talking about men's issues. And I guess I have found Honey Badger Radio, and I'm currently working on a webcomic that is sort of a dramatic exploration of men's issues through the use of a realistic matriarchy and some intricate politics. But if you're interested in taking a look at that, it's xenospora.com. And I know whenever I give this link out, I always get somebody in the comments saying, I can't find your webcomic. It's Xenospora with an X, like in ox or xylophone. And it's just like xeno plus spora.com. So yeah, if you're interested in a dramatic exploration of men's issues, that would be something to look at. And I'll hand it back to Rachel.
All right, and we also have the lovely Crystal Garcia. Are you there? Crystal.
I think Crystal might be dealing with her spawn.
Yeah, I think, she's her spawn. Very adorable. And we've got Kat Rocha.
Hi, everybody. Sorry about my long absence. I've been at a lot of conventions lately. I am Kat Rocha. I am the owner of 01 Publishing, and I, too, have a personal comic. It's LD30, The Adventures of a Swinging Robot, and LD goes on adventures going to strip clubs, womanizing, drinking, and basically just having fun and doing all of those things that SJWs don't want you to do.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm on board for that. So,
tell us about you, Rachel. Tell us about you.
Oh yeah, okay. I write a blog where I go by Naughty Nerdist, so it's naughtynerdist.tumblr.com. I'm also covering Gamergate a great deal recently, so if you want to see my take on all that, or if I see anything on Twitter or roaming around infographics, I post them there, so you know where to go and you know what to do. All right, so we've got a lot of interesting topics today, and Yes, absolutely. We are covering the things to do with Gamergate, but we're also covering the larger media bias that comes from that part of the media, and we will talk about that in length. But for right now, we've got the news and we've got some other show segments. And since they're so short, I don't know, Hannah, do you want to read them or do you want me to cover them?
Sure, I can do that.
All right.
Woman lies about being a teenage sex trafficking victim. 26-year-old Samantha Lindell, as a party of, I hope I pronounced her name right, of Sydney, Australia, is being brought up on charges in Calgary, Canada, after impersonating a 14-year-old victim of sex trafficking. What police didn't know at first was that this woman was a repeat offender with at least 40 known aliases. She was previously caught telling the same story in Dublin, Ireland, telling a false tale of imprisonment and prolonged sexual assault. For several weeks, doctors, therapists, and investigators in Calgary spent countless hours trying to determine the extent of abuse that never happened. She is currently being charged with public mischief. This woman sounds really disturbed. What kind of fantasies are they that would cause her to cook up stories like this?
Yeah, if anybody ever wanted to know just how much someone is capable of lying about when it comes to victimhood and things like that, this is your answer. There's a woman who seems to be roaming around because she's originally from Australia, Sydney, Australia, and yet she found her way throughout Europe and stuff with the same story. We still don't know if there's any other situations where she's got other charges in other countries yet because of the language barrier and things like that. But basically, she has been doing this. She has been going around to different places with the claim that she's been assaulted and that she's a teenage sex trafficking victim. And I guess she looks young enough to pass that off, but I don't know.
Well, I think the psychology here is pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's essentially a form of Munchausen syndrome, I would think.
Unless she's just exploiting it as a way to get free travel.
Maybe that. But I mean, like you look at the way she, everywhere she goes, she claims to be a victim of some kind of sexual exploitation. That certainly gets you as much attention as you would get from a doctor when you go in with a set of mysterious symptoms that you're faking really well. And you don't actually have to submit to, all the blood tests and the battery of drugs that they try and all of those things, right? Yeah, I think that probably the psychology is quite similar between her and Munchausen.
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious that that's what's taking place here. And, but I don't know if we've seen something on this level before. Wait, no, I would say that woman who lied about rape and being abused in the military, I can't remember her name right now, but we covered her in a couple...
Jamie Lee Jones or something?
Jamie, something like that. It was, but yeah, you guys can... She also had the archive.
She also had, or suspected from everything that I've read about.
She had a long history of it, and that's the thing.
Faking medical conditions and all of that, not just sexual exploitation and harassment and rape, but also medical problems, mysterious symptoms that seem to disappear when people weren't around, and then suddenly, she realizes a nurse is watching, so she, sort of has a dizzy spell all of a sudden, right? Those observations of the medical personnel was that her symptoms only existed when there was somebody watching. And,
or when she knew somebody was watching.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
So yeah, I think that, and women are primarily the people who suffer from Munchausen. I think maybe the psychological underpinnings of it may be just as common in men, but men don't get the kind of positive feedback from faking an illness or essentially being a hypochondriac, or saying they've been sexually assaulted or victimized, and so they don't get the positive attention that women can get. And so if they have the psychological underpinnings that would produce Munchausen in a woman, it's just not going to produce the same behaviors in a man just because there's no positive reinforcement for it. So
yeah, and this is actually very apropos for our topic tonight, considering how often this kind of fainting damsel playing victim is used to manipulate the media message. And I'll just
we've always got another story. Hannah, do you want to take it, or do you want me to do it? Hello, can anyone hear me?
Hannah.
Malfunctioning mute button. Sorry. But no, a survey measures male immaturity by the state. A recent survey, if you can call it that, attempts to measure perceived male immaturity with fairly questionable methodology. A real estate blog claims to have a formula that can calculate male immaturity by the state, factoring in unemployment rates, and took a look at a sample of specific criteria from men aged 20 to 60 on Facebook. They factored in the following towards perceived immaturity. Number 1, watching Family Guy. Number 2, being a game enthusiast. Gee, there's kind of a pattern here, isn't there, tonight? Number 3, liking beer pong. Number 4, having an interest in fantasy football. Well, that pretty much covers the entire country. Number 5, having never been married. And that's a little sexist. Number 6, number of porn downloads by state. Number 7, state unemployment. In fact, this study seems to blame the record number of young people being unmarried on men and their lack of maturity, making this likely one of the most unscientific studies we've ever seen. Now, having never been married, do they not realize that they're slamming gay men in states where gay marriage is still illegal?
They don't really care, to be honest. It's really an unscientific study. It was just, a blog that put this together. It's pretty messy, and I think they were basing it on previous Pew studies having to do with the number of unmarried men and things like that, and women, and they're trying to provide a correlation between that and male immaturity.
Well, no, they're basically trying to say if you don't live our promoted lifestyle, our approved lifestyle, there's something wrong with you.
Well,
exactly.
It lumps certain activities like certain television shows and playing video games as immature. It's like, I know 50-year-olds who watch The Family Guy. Women watch Family Guy. Just like, everybody across the board plays video games. It's incredibly biased and opinionated on what constitutes, quote, immature. Really, I think immature comes from, well, gee, do you pay your bills on time? Okay, then, you're mature,
Yeah, I think maybe whoever created this study was projecting a little bit.
Well, you think?
What is it that they are, what standard are they measuring this? This sounds like the standard of maturity that they're measuring by is essentially, gynocentric, centered on what women want out of men, really.
Sounds like what Dr. Laura used to use when she would, diagnose people on the radio.
Yeah, by the way, the most immature state, according to them, is Rhode Island. Congratulations, Rhode Island. They think you're a bunch of man-children.
It's got 20 people in it. My God.
Well, apparently they at least are laid back and know how to have fun.
Yeah. You know what?
And have a sense of humor.
I have a
thought of fucking Rhode Island now with the porn.
I have a thought experiment. What if women were judged by men, like a man's standard of maturity?
Number
what
one,
that?
How many pairs of shoes do you own?
Yeah, if it's more than 5, you're out.
Can you balance your own checkbook?
How overdrawn is your credit card? You overdraw credit cards? I don't actually have one.
Did you take a degree that actually will make you money? Actually, these sound like very sensible ways of judging maturity. Have you
ever dated a man just for the amount of money he makes?
Do you expect?
The truth is that men aren't necessarily all that judgmental, but they get accused of it because women get offended at being judged.
Oh, the level of offense. The level of offense. Women have a much lower threshold for what they consider when they consider something offensive. That's whether they're offending people or whether they're being offended. Their threshold is a lot lower than men's is, which is actually one of the reasons it's suggested that women apologize more than men, is because they simply have a lower threshold of what they feel is offensive, and that even goes for when they offend other people. So yeah. I think that women just being more sensitive on average, of course they don't take criticism well, and it takes a lot less of it to get them all head up.
Okay, so that could be an element of maturity, being able to take criticism and not take offense at every little thing. That could be on the. I guess I don't want to speak for men. You know what? I don't even think men would write a list like this, which I guess
no, they probably wouldn't.
Aspect of maturity.
That's probably.
Anyway,
that's probably like the last thing I want to spend time on. It sounds like something completely useless, because what's it going to change?
Right. Well, that's defeatist.
Well, it's just a list.
Yeah, you're right.
What's it going to change?
You're right. It's not going to change anything.
It's more. What purpose does it serve? Okay, fine. You think that there's a bunch of immature guys in Rhode Island. So what? What is that a problem? Is this like a horrible epidemic? Are people suffering as a result of this? No. So what?
Should we invade?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, like, they're having serious problems with their economy in Japan because something like 60% of men under 30 have no interest in dating, have no interest in marriage, have no interest in working full time, right? And their entire economy has been based for decades on the carnivore model of male breadwinners, right? That these aren't even breadwinners; they're bacon winners. They're like oxen winners. They're
is that an immaturity problem? This study was studying, quote, immaturity. Now, yes, the level of guys who were not married was one of those things. But my husband was in his 30s when he and I got married.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. But these are guys who have no interest whatsoever in any of it.
That's entirely within their right. They're human beings. They can decide what they do with their lives. And if you have a society that isn't appealing to young men to take an active interest in it, it deserves to die. I'll put it right there. I'll set that out. And Rachel has been waiting patiently.
Yeah. Oh, here's another thing, though. People have actually been waiting longer and longer to get married. They've been, when we look at the average age that someone used to get married, say, oh gosh, like in the 50s, and compare it to now, well, you had a lot of shotgun weddings in the 50s. Let's be honest about this. There was a lot of premarital sex going on, but of course, instead of, having an abortion or anything like that, you would get married to the guy that got you pregnant. And you'd be something like 16, 15 years old, maybe. Or a little bit older, and that was perfectly normal. As long as you got married. As long as you married the chick that that you had sex with. So that actually has been going, that happened a long time, and it's something that really hasn't been reported on. But now, since we have birth control pills, you see that going away. You see people waiting longer and longer, like late 20s, early 30s to get married.
It's largely women putting it off, though. I mean, because if you actually do surveys and you ask men and women, are you interested in being married and having a family? Right? Men are most likely to say yes between the ages of 18 and 24. Right? I am interested in doing that at some point. Right? Women don't tend to start answering yes until they're in their mid to late 20s. So, I mean, they're like ships passing in the night now. Right? And it's because women are wanting to delay that. Women are the ones who have no interest in settling down in their early 20s. Men are the most interested in settling down when they're in their early 20s, believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they watch everybody else go through family court.
Yeah. And then they get real scared about getting married, which you can't blame them for,
too, maybe some of the decreasing, desire for marriage as a life goal, over time might just not even be through watching people get divorced and stuff like that, but maybe just their own interactions with women that they date. You have to consider that as a possibility of them saying, trying to date several women and going, yeah, no, like I thought that women were nice and maybe they're not so nice.
Yeah. Well, certainly women seem to love to write lists about how men need to be mature. And that's sort of rude and shaming, but in my opinion.
Well, it's very high school and very immature.
Yeah, and somehow they get them published in mainstream media, which brings us back to what doesn't get published in mainstream media, which is...
Absolutely. I mean, I really think that this really does come back to this idea. I mean, people haven't adjusted their perceptions to what is acceptable now for men. I mean, what was expected of men, like many, like, I don't know, like, say, 30s, 40s, 50s, it doesn't ring true today. There's a lot of different things that it's perfectly acceptable for a guy to be interested in now, and that wasn't even around back then. So when we sit here and when we look at this all, they're like, oh my gosh, these men are not the kind of men I thought that I would marry one day or date one day. Well, fucking tough shit, okay?
Well, what I love is how they're like, oh, society used to be patriarchal and misogynistic, and our men aren't acting that way anymore, the bastards.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like, guys, you sort of squashed my segue because I had that beautiful segue back into Gamergate, and then you were like, no, let's take it back to the...
Two more segments.
Two more segments? Okay. All right.
Two more. Okay, I will get into it, okay? So it's going to be fun.
Yes.
All right. Could lowering the drinking age help to combat campus rape? With California's new affirmative consent law on the books, an article on Reason.com suggests a more practical solution for reducing rape on college campuses. The article suggests lowering the legal drinking age from 21 to 18. While not all sexual assault is directly caused by campus drinking, it would greatly reduce the amount of assaults directly associated with underage binge drinking. And lowering the legal drinking age, it would normalize the act and remove much of the novelty associated with campus drinking, thus removing much of the campus drinking culture that aids in the incapacitation of many victims of sexual assault. All right, let's talk about...
Why not just lowering the age of consent down to 16? I know some states have already done that, and quite frankly, I think that's the way it should be.
A lot of them are already that. I mean, I think the only state that really has it be a firm 18 is California. Depending upon what state you're in, it's usually something in the realm of 16, 17, and in some 15.
Yeah, California is very strict on that 18 rule. It really is.
In Canada,
I don't think changing the drinking age is going to change drinking habits, because when I was a kid, the drinking age was 18. And in the area where I grew up, drinking didn't change significantly when the drinking age went from 18 to 21. What happened was it became more covert. But there was underage drinking when the drinking age was 18. And there were 14, 15, and 16-year-olds in my state that drank. I have friends that drank when they were in junior high. This is not... The law doesn't really impact what people think is normal, and when it comes to drinking or drugs or any of that. And it's something that, honestly, this approach is just really kind of a red herring. And I think what really would change rape on campus would be if they actually started approaching it based on what it is instead of what feminists say it is. If they started approaching it as the act of contravening someone's right or ability to say no on purpose, then they would actually be able to deal with the people who commit rape, and they would actually be able to equip students to take measures to prevent themselves from being victimized. But as long as they've got this idea that women have to be helpless and men have to be responsible for them, and whether they're directly involved with them or not, and men are responsible all for each other's behavior and everything, they're never going to change the way things are. They're simply going to leave it exploitable to false accusers and rapists alike.
And I want to just give some context to this article, because I believe that this is William Friese's article, right? Friese? Friese.
Yeah, I think so. I could be wrong.
He actually recently wrote an article, and he got fired, I believe, from Forbes for writing it, that said that essentially frats need to be careful about allowing drunk girls into their parties because they're dangerous, which is exactly true. They are dangerous. And because drunk girls have a habit of making accusations of rape after they sleep with someone they would otherwise not sleep with if they were sober, and not realizing that when you make that kind of choice when you're drunk, it's still a choice. And so he said basically they should be escorted out and safely deposited in a cab going home. He got fired for that. He got crucified for saying that, because he approached it from an angle of protecting the fraternity and the men in it rather than protecting the women. And of course, that angle is perfectly legitimate because college tribunals have give women on campus so much power to destroy a man's life with barely, like, only 50.01% of the evidence he can be kicked off campus. And that's basically just one feminist rape counselor saying you have to always believe the victim. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that this particular author has been through the ringer.
I also wanted to add too that one of the big criticisms that I read from a progressive blog, I don't know, it was HuffPost or something like that, right? But one of those was the writer said, "Oh, it would be different. We wouldn't be so angry with Bill Frezza if he'd suggested some kind of policy or something. If these frat houses had policies." And I'm like, what do you think he was suggesting? He was suggesting a policy of don't let drunk girls into your fucking parties. Right?
Sounds like a policy.
That's not the policies that these women want. They want policies where women can do whatever the fuck they want, right? And men just have to walk around on eggshells and live in constant terror. That's the policy that they want, right? But a policy that protects men, oh, no.
And the funny thing is that even though we want a policy in which women can do whatever they want, we still can't point to that as actually victimizing men. Like when we make it, we bend over backwards so that women can cry rape at a drop of a hat and they'll be believed, and the guy's kicked out with barely little evidence. And all of these other legal policies that make it dangerous to have sex with women, we can't actually point out. It's not acceptable for us to point out that women have thus become very dangerous. Not even just dangerous in terms of a false rape accusation.
Well, that gets rid of the whole idea of their victims. If you start saying, no, you're dangerous for the fact that you can charge innocent people with horrible crimes, that takes away the whole victim image. Again, it goes back to, I don't want responsibility and it's all about me. And that's what all of these laws are. It's women wanting it to be all about them. They want all of the power. They want all of the ability to shun and ridicule and prosecute whoever they want for whatever infractions they want to come up with at the time, like that poor taxi cab driver where the girl didn't want to pay her $12 cab fee, so she was going to cry rape on the poor guy. Luckily he had an in-cab camera to catch it. But and again, they don't want the responsibility of what comes with making such horrible accusations. That's why they never get prosecuted for making those accusations, where almost every other heinous crime out there, if you waste the court's time, you get hit for it.
And the other thing is, other point I wanted to make about victimization is this automatically believing women when they say they're raped gives female rapists a fantastic tool to extort compliance out of their male victims. I mean, it's I wouldn't be surprised if they are exploiting it left, right, and center. And of course, we can't mention that either, at least not in the mainstream media.
But Allison, you've got to listen and believe.
Yeah, and women would never. No woman would ever do that because women never do anything bad.
Yeah, don't you know, Allison? You've got to listen and believe.
No, women never do anything bad, and women never lie. And stop talking about this, or I'll say you raped me.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Don't say no, or I'll say you raped me. Right?
No.
You're gonna comply to my sexual wishes, or I say you raped me. And that's where the intersection between the false rape accusation and actually empowering rapists comes in, because the more feminists say don't believe or always believe a woman, the more they are actually empowering rapists.
I hope the male professors are starting to become smart enough to never meet with a female student without a witness.
Oh, yeah, no. That's gone on. That's gone on for a long time. You talk to any male teacher at any level of education, and they will say if they have a female student in the room with them, the door is always open. Always, always, always.
Yeah, I would think so, with the capacity to falsely accuse or even ridiculously misunderstand and accuse. Oh, he stood too close to me. Just any of that.
Yeah.
It would only take one girl saying one thing, and that would be the end of somebody's career.
Oh, it has been.
Yep. But I think we should get to the next segment, because we ended up having a fair amount of questions tweeted at us. And by the way, if you're listening and you want us to address a question, please tweet it at Honey Badger Bite. That's Honey Badger Bite. Tweet your questions to Honey Badger Bite, and we will try to get to them. So do that. And
all right. By the way, okay. So I have one more segment, and then we'll get to the main topic. All right. Sydney College rejects application to create a men's mental health group. The University of Sydney Union has rejected an application for a student society for the first time in over a decade. What brought about this momentous occasion, you ask? Well, apparently some men had the nerve to try and establish a men's health group on campus. Apparently, they were not aware that feminists rule the realm of academia with an iron fist, and won't allow a group that would provide support in seeking mental health services for men. They cannot be bothered with the statistics that support the need for such a group. The campus in question supports several safe spaces for women on campus, and even aided a women's domestic violence / homeless shelter in town to keep it afloat. All the while, they can't be bothered to provide the same services to men. I guess that's college for you.
Well, the statistics on suicide in men is unbelievable, and it's amazing that they can't even allow this. Like, just even this, they can't allow. I mean, they're from what I'm hearing, there's nothing to do with anti-feminism. There's nothing to do with any of that. It's not even a men's rights group. It's just a group for men with mental health problems, right?
Well, it seems to be, just your average men's health group, but I don't know if it's necessarily anti-feminist. It just seems that they wanted to have those services available for men to have a support group.
Well, and non-feminist. Right?
It's non-feminist. But they won't even allow this minor challenge to their women as social victim narrative.
No, to their feminism as hegemony narrative.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I don't really know what else to say, but you see here they said that they have several spaces for women on campus, and they sat there and they pointed that up. They said you have all these wonderful safe spaces for women on campus, but you don't have one for men, and they just wanted a small group and to set it up. They completely rejected the application, and apparently they haven't rejected an application for a student group in over a decade.
Well, Australia's pretty fucking far out. Like, Australia is like the Sydney of the Sweden of the Southern Hemisphere. They're just absolutely, some of the laws that they've come out with, the acts, the plan, to protect women and their children, which is a major piece of federal legislation there, as far as I know, and that's gone through, if I recall correctly. And that basically makes it so that if a man is the sole breadwinner in the family and his wife is spending the family into bankruptcy and he says, no, you can't buy that, that's domestic violence.
That's ridiculous.
Right? Because it's financial abuse.
But the what really galls me is these people have the absolute balls to say that they are the underdogs. They can stop these kinds of completely innocuous initiatives like getting college men mental health services because, I don't know.
But that would defeat the purpose of keeping up the victim mentality. You know, if men need these services too, they're not, women aren't the sole victims anymore.
Well, but there's also in the whole, because as Allison said, they often want to claim underdog status, and like, I actually, what was it? Was it a Vice? No, it was a brief documentary that somebody did. I think it was interviewing people from the men's conference in St. Clair Shores outside of Detroit. And they interviewed a feminist, she was a media studies professor or something like that, right? Or communications professor. She said, I just don't get it. They think feminism is this big, huge, powerful thing. And I only wish we were that powerful. And you even see Anita Sarkeesian saying, they claim I have this feminist army. Like, where is this army? You know what? I'm sorry, but you don't get to disavow. You don't get to abuse your power and then disavow that you have it, right? And just completely claim that you have no power. Oh, what are you, scared of a girl? That's all that is, right? That's all that is. I'm just a little girl. What are you, scared of a girl? Loser, right? That's all that claim is, that feminism is the underdog, right? Because they do have a position of dominance in politics. They have a position of dominance in political lobbies. They have a position of dominance in economic policy, in social services, in legislation. They have a dominant position in education. They have a dominant position in delivery of health care. They have a dominant position in the media. They have a dominant position in every single aspect that people come into of society, that people come into contact with on a daily basis, right? And then they claim, oh, but we're just girls. Like, oh my God, like, you're scared of us? Like, oh, what a bunch of cowards and sissies to be scared of a little girl, right? I don't have any power. You can totally beat me at arm wrestling. Like, yeah, no.
Typical bullying.
But it's plausible deniability. That's why the government can be overtly feminist, even though it's the majority male in positions of elected office, right? Majority male. And still be overtly feminist is because all of the power is in the lobby, right? All of the power, the real power to make things happen is not in those politicians. It's in the lobby. And the lobby for feminism is stronger than the lobby for almost anything else. I would say it's stronger than the lobby for the freaking military industrial complex, for tobacco, all of that.
Well, I think it's not just feminism. I think that they're riding on a very old narrative of female victimhood, feminist theory is nothing if not the idea that men are omnipotent, basically, and have this massive, all-powerful.
Well, and that's why it's so effective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they are so effective. And one of the things
false buttons in our lizard brains.
Well, and if you look at own group preference and all of that, and how 4 out of 4 women prefer women and 3 out of 4 men prefer women, right? And you look at it and you think women have really never needed a movement to push for their interests
or
right?
their victimhood.
Right. They just never have, right? It's men who have always needed it, but men are much less likely to actually form such a movement, and they're much less likely to be effective when they form such a movement, right? For the very reasons why women are more likely to form these movements that they don't even need.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, women do not need another movement explaining to the entire world how to see women as victims in every conceivable circumstances, even in those circumstances that women aren't actually even in, like prison rape. But we should probably move on to questions because we got like a bunch of them. It was and if you have a question, tweet it to @honeybadgerbite on Twitter because we are going to try to get through the questions. But first of all, I put up a show preview on our Patreon account every week, or I'm starting to try to do that. And when if you're a patron and you write a question on our Patreon account, we'll get to you first. You get priority because you're helping make this show possible. So this is Brian D who's a Honey Badger patron. So thank you for that, Brian. And Brian D's question is this about what is this about the MSBSE Gamergate Blitzkrieg? If so, can you cover some other instances of media bias that deals directly with the men's rights movement or the brigade, Honey Badger Brigade? And I wanted to throw one interesting instance of media bias that does deal with the men's rights movement that Hannah and Karen were a part of. Which was the 2020 interview last year. Do you guys remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, essentially, 2020 interviewed John and John the other and Paul.
Oh
Elam. Yeah, and they completely did a well. Actually, it never aired.
Yeah, it never aired.
Well, here's the thing, too, right? Is because they asked for interviews from Paul Elam and John the other. They didn't ask any of us, right? They didn't ask to talk to us. Remember, John invited us to ambush the interviewer on the call, and he had us sitting in the background on Skype, right, to join the call. And when the interviewer asked the first question, he says, "Well, I could answer that, but I think I'd rather let one of my female colleagues answer that. Allison, are you there?" Right? And Allison came on, and the guy was just dumbfounded for the first
Actually, I remember it somewhat differently, Karen, because I remember that John actually took a few of the questions that he posed, and then I called Leroy Jenkins on you guys. And I was like, you're hiding the fact that the men's rights movement has women advocating in it. And the guy was, no, I'm not doing that, which is exactly what they were doing, right?
Oh, yeah.
But and the article that came out of that was so biased.
Oh, yeah, it was by 2 interns, I hope. I hope they weren't picking those
man
women.
boobs, all people. And it also quoted Paul Elam quoting a comment. Then he said of this comment, "Do not write this comment or you will be banned from my site." And they quoted that comment as being common of the comments on the site, taken directly from a page that says, "Do not write this stuff. You'll be banned instantly."
Yeah, what he had said was that this is unacceptable in the men's rights movement. It was advocacy of violence, and he had said advocacy for violence is unacceptable in the men's rights movement. This is shit. If you do it, you'll be banned. And that was when and it was had been commenting on that article, and I don't remember if it was Allison's account couldn't comment. She was trying to comment and it wouldn't, so I put it up, and I basically described what it was. This is a comment that Paul made saying not to talk like this. And it just exploded in the comments. And the comments on that article got so long that I can't load it up on my
there was
my computer anymore.
Because the article was from like 2011 or something, or 2012, and somebody had made that comment, and it had stayed up for about 12 hours or something because Paul was away. And then when he came back, there were a whole bunch of messages saying, you got to deal with this comment. And so he went and he deleted it, and then he left a big post. He made a post basically saying, nobody talks this way on my website or anywhere that I control, right? That I have any power. If you do, you're banned, right? Yeah. I'm not going to put up with this shit, right? And they scooped it. They copied and pasted it from the article. That was the only place that it still existed. They scooped it from the article. They portrayed it as, this is indicative of the kind of commentary you'll find on men's rights.
Yeah, they treated it like it was standard.
Yeah.
Like, this is standard fare on men's rights blogs. And
the moment that was revealed, I think those two girls probably lost their jobs.
Actually, one of them was not an intern. I cannot remember which. Was it Valenti? That was one of the bigger feminist writers. And shortly after that article came out, I think she went into rehab for a while.
Yeah. Oh no! That was the woman who was going to do the story. What was her name? She's a big time journalist.
I don't remember whether it was Valenti or another one.
But they ended up pulling the actual, because they were not just going to do an article. Also going to do a news segment on the men's rights movement, or A Voice for Men, and they pulled the news segment, and that segment apparently was going to air that day, according to Man Boobs, who had, for some reason, an inside track. Actually, he was the source. So this was the day that Man Boobs humiliated 2020. Of course, the mainstream media still goes to him, but that was delicious. And he said that they were going to air the segment that day, but they pulled the segment after that enormous comment thread where they essentially were shown to have their pants down and their ass out in the wind. And they were also suggesting that there weren't any women in the men's rights movement. And there were commentators, because we all descended upon that thread. We were like, well, wait a second, they got women there. They got women talking about these issues. This is interesting. Like, this is in this thread to this article, commentators are waking up and actually recognizing that they were full of shit. It was a glorious thing, and they pulled the TV segment,
the hit piece.
The hit piece. Probably we humiliated them in the comments, and that was an interesting day.
Yeah, I remember that because people started showing up from Man Boob's blog and saying things like, "Oh, you guys are sock puppets. You're not actually real women." I got accused of not being a real person because my my handle on Discus. My handle on Discus is was Gloria Sass, and so it is a joke name, and so they just assumed I was a guy. Apparently, women aren't supposed to have a sense of humor.
Of course not, especially not about our asses.
But we're having glorious ones anyway.
Wow.
But I wanted to move on to the next comment. This is a really important one, I think.
Well, we could have gone into the bit about stuff that happened at the conference, because that was rather eye-opening.
Yeah, but we've already did that quite a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
There is the fact that Vice changed the title of their piece on us after we supported Gamergate.
Oh, that was really surreal. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I know.
It was so weird.
The video on YouTube was initially called "Meet the Women of the Men's Rights Movement," and then about a month and a half after it aired, it went up. They changed the title to "Men's Rights Activists Believe Women Deserve to Be Raped," or something like that, which was bizarre. There were a lot of people in the comments calling them out on that, going, "I didn't see any of that in the story. Like, what are you doing?"
They made it like they basically, And, the interesting thing is all these people who are commenting on Gamergate and are giving people and Gamergate shit, they're the exact same sources that gave us shit. Really.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something to think about for those of you who might be new to the show, who are suddenly listening to this for the first time. We've been dealing with the exact same stuff for a very, very long time. What they do is, it usually has to do with when they're dealing with people who don't have a specific political alignment. When they're dealing with an egalitarian group or a group that doesn't really lean in any direction, if it doesn't give them what they want, they'll either bury it, or they'll change what the people said, or, frame it in a way that makes it interesting so that they can profit off of it. And it really, really gets disgusting. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but oftentimes we will get interviews and that will never see the light of day. There are people who will, they'll interview the men's rights movement and different members of it, and then they just won't publish the article because there's nothing to go on.
Well, because the interview that we give doesn't fit their narrative. Like,
I'm going to interject one thing here.
Sure.
The reporter I was talking about earlier, the one that went into rehab, Danny Boy in chat reminded me it's Elizabeth Vargas, not Valenti. The whole Valenti thing was we had originally thought one of the girls that worked on the story was related to Valenti, and found out that there was no evidence that was the case, and their names were spelled differently, so she probably wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a good time to bring up, by the way, that 90% of the media, just a reminder, is owned by about 6 companies. Let me take a look at this graphic. In 1983, it was owned by about 50 companies, but now it's since been consolidated down to about 6, and those are GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. And if there's one specifically that basically has issues, you'll see it go down, just sort of trickle down. They can give orders from above. If there is a company that happens, let's say that they own a news company, and they also happen to own another company that produces weapons that are aiding war in the Middle East, and there's a lot of damage happening, and there's a lot of innocent bystanders who have been killed, well, guess what's going to happen? They're going to sit there and say, okay, we need you to deal with this issue a little more delicately. Don't give a hint at exactly how harsh the damage actually is, or the corruption. Just, calm it down a little bit. And we've seen that happen. This is no secret. It happens all the time. So don't think that this is a left-right issue. It's happening on both ends of the spectrum and every place in between.
And it's partly why I stopped referring to mainstream press and started referring to establishment press. Because they're establishment, they are the people in power, they are not mainstream, they don't have anything to do with the general public.
I just wanted to, that's a very astute point, Hannah, and I think we should all adopt that. Stop calling them mainstream, because they got nothing to do with the average person who, according to actually an article that Rachel sent me, and I read really quick before the show, most people don't want to get their information from what they consider a biased source. And yeah, as Karen just texted through the chat, elitist media, and it's like they aren't mainstream. They are, like you say, Hannah, they're establishment press. And I just wanted to bring it back to that point where what is it like to be interviewed by the press, and how they don't actually use a lot of the stuff that we say. If they can't fit it in, if they can't shoehorn it into their narrative, and their narrative is very much dominated by the very thing that Anita Sarkeesian says is bad in games, which is damseling, which is turning women into the victim and men into the villain. And if he doesn't shoehorn into that, then they don't want it. They just drop it off the plate, and it just disappears in the memory hole.
another one of the tropes that she gets on about as being misogynistic is the idea that using violence against women is sort of a set piece, right? It's a set piece that conveys the grittiness and the horribleness of the world in the game, right? And that's all it is. It's just there to demonstrate that this is a bad place, right? Exploiting violence against women just to set a mood or an atmosphere, right? And also to give the player an emotional punch that when he witnesses violence against women, that will motivate him to get the bad guy and defeat the bad guy, right? Those are misogynistic tropes, according to her. They're exploiting women. They're manipulating people's emotions in order to, in order to get them to play the game, just by using women as set pieces and props and stuff like this, and violence against women as atmosphere and setting, right? Okay,
yeah,
so
but the women in the refrigerators argument only works if you're not like looking for it. And as we've proven with Manhunt, she fixed this.
What's the mainstream media doing, right? Okay, in a game, right? The man who cuts the prostitute's throat just because for convenience or for kicks, right? He's the bad guy. You have to get him, right? What's she doing? Right? She's telling the media, these gamers are threatening me with sexual violence. That's how you know they're the bad guys. And that's how you know you have to get them.
Yeah, only when you seek it out. Again, the refrigerating women argument, for those of you who don't know, Women in Refrigerators was a movement in the 90s, early 2000s, started by writer Gail Simone. And the idea was exactly that, this whole idea of giving your male heroes reason to go out and kick ass by doing horrible things to the women around them. And yes, in comic books, there was starting to be a problem with that. It's called Women in Refrigerators because Green Lantern's girlfriend was chopped up into little pieces and put in the refrigerator for him to find as a late night snack. But it's been blown way out of proportion now. And again, what I hate about Anita's arguments is, the killing prostitutes thing. The most recent one that she brought up is from Manhunt, where she purposely did that. She purposely sought out these strippers and killed them, where in the game, you're actually penalized for that. You are discouraged from actually engaging in that sort of behavior, but she did it anyway, just to, to make her point, not to make a point, but to make her point. And if I didn't say so before, it's the Hitman game.
But the thing too is that, okay, yes, these things exist as tropes. Of course they do, right? Because harming women is something that eats at us. It kicks us in the gut when we see that happening, right? All of us. Men, women, everybody, right? You harm a woman for no reason, right?
I think just harming people in general for no reason tends to kick us in the gut.
Guys,
harming
people, I have a correction. It was not Manhunt, it was Hitman.
Hitman, yeah, she corrected that. But harming people in general does not evoke the same response. Otherwise, 99% of casualties, objectified casualties in video games, wouldn't be men, right? Look at the death toll. Look at the piles of dead bodies, men and women, right? We do not feel the same about this, right? And we do not use the deaths of men, right? The death of a homeless man or whatever, right? To motivate the player to defeat the bad guy the same way we do the death of a woman. It doesn't have the same emotional punch, and it just doesn't. Right? But here's the thing. She's saying that this trope is misogynistic, right? That using violence against women to identify the bad guy and motivate the player to defeat him is misogynistic, and yet that is how she's playing the media. She is using the threats of sexual violence against her to say to the media, here's where the bad guy is, go get him. And the media is doing it, and they're doing it because they're prone. Tropes exist because they're shortcuts, right? You can go from A to Z in one action. You don't have to go through all of the letters. You don't have to apply logic. You just know it's wrong. You just do. You just know it's bad to beat a woman up for no reason. You just do, right? Or for no good reason, or for no justifiable reason. That's why it works. That's how she can play the media. So she's using the tropes that she decries, right? Damsel in distress, the violence, the women as background decoration to set the mood, and and even feminism, this whole patriarchy theory, right? Oh, it's not right to use violence against women to convince people that your world is a bad place. Yet what does patriarchy theory do? It uses violence against women to convince everybody that our world is a bad place.
Yep. She's using herself, violence against women, as a
fucking trope in the book.
Yeah, and if these tropes cease to exist, Anita Sarkeesian would be out of a job, because she is appealing to the very tropes she says that other people should. It starts to feel more like, gang colors. Get off of my territory, bitches. These are my tropes. I get to use these tropes. You don't get to use these tropes. These are my tropes.
Actually, look at it layer by layer. It's like fucking Inception. It's like peeling an onion.
Okay, well, guys, before we go right into the questions, though, I do want to make a minor comment on the coverage by MSNBC and stuff of Gamergate. I've seen actually, I think, aside from the one situation where they had the women of Gamergate on Huffington Post, you can be assured that for the majority of it is complete and utter bullshit. They just, it's been really terrible. And I gotta say, right now, Brianna Wu is a media whore. And I say that, I don't usually like to use the word whore, unless it applies, but that's, I don't know how to better, okay, maybe I can sit there and call her a media parasite. She really is trying to milk this for all it's worth. I mean, think about all the countless people who have been harassed since Gamergate began, the pro-Gamergate side, everybody. And they've received death threats, they've received weird packages in the mail, they've been doxxed, they've been fired from their jobs because people were emailing their workplace saying that they were misogynists and bigots and sexists and stuff. It's horrible. And what does the media choose to cover? Poor Brianna Wu. I received a death threat and I've left my home. And you haven't lost your job. You haven't had everybody defame you. You haven't had people sit there and tear you down. I mean, all of your friends are on board with you. You haven't lost any friends over this.
And the other thing is that, like
what
I
have
said,
you lost, Brianna?
I said in the earlier, like the Nerdcast this week, people in the Gamergate side are receiving death threats. They are receiving very threatening they're not going public with them because they actually are legitimate threats, and they don't want to impede an actual investigation, which is what these people are doing by going public with these so-called threats. Is they're actually making it more difficult to be protected and more difficult to have them investigated. So it really tells you the kind of priorities that they have. If the first thing they do with a threat is wear it.
And
there's something else about this. You have a couple of women, that are anti-Gamergate or that Gamergate is responding to, who the minute that they have even negative responses, they don't even have to have threats. They just have negative responses and they start whining about it. And as soon as they have something that they can call a threat, it's, the biggest big deal, and it must be reported in the news and all kinds of stuff, and they leave their house and they damsel over it and cancel venues and all kinds of stuff. The folks in Gamergate who have been harassed have not quit because they've been harassed. They've kept going, and many of them have actually dug their heels, and I've seen tweet after tweet after tweet of I've had calls to my work, or I've had emails to my work, or somebody's done this or somebody's done that. I'm not going to shut up just because. And it's amazing to see the courage of these people, because they really are being threatened with life-altering behaviors and life-altering attacks, and they're standing up to it. They're very courageous.
I find it hilarious. It just, the whole thing reminds me of a video by That Guy T. He was responding to someone called Claudio Bolin about the Elliot Rogers shooting, and she's going on and on about, we've been trying to warn you that this is going to happen. And then it clips to him, and he's like, and it finally did. Yes, it finally did. Right?
Okay, yeah. But let's get Kat in here for the final words, and we should probably move on to the questions, because we got quite a few of them. And if you do,
all right. We'll go to the questions, I guess.
No. Let Kat have her final word.
Okay, Kat, go.
I'll be very brief. Going back to a previous part of the conversation, unfortunately, no, I don't doubt that certain members of Gamergate are lobbing threats at people who are not part of Gamergate, because that's just human nature, and people do that, and it's stupid. But really, because of some of the actions of Anita Sarkeesian and other people, I tend to default on not believing these women when they say, oh, I had to abandon my house. Why? For the reasons that we've just brought up. They go to the media first. They don't file police reports. They don't follow proper procedure. Instead, they sit there and they sponge up all the attention they possibly can. That is not the actions of somebody who is scared or who is getting, attacked. That's the actions of somebody who is just plain wanting attention. And so, I don't know whether or not she really did get these threats. I don't know if she really did have, had to leave her home.
I actually reported some of the most recent Anita threats. I was actually one of the people, and I screenshot it, so you can see it on my blog. I wanted to prove it.
Are you talking about the gun in Utah?
No, it's the one even more recent than that. There's actually, it turned out that it's actually a game journalist in Brazil who's doing this to get hits on his blog. Yeah.
Yes, so, I heard about that. But the thing is I'm starting to, for me, it's a cry wolf situation. If they hadn't been lying so much themselves, I might be more inclined to think, okay, they really are having unwarranted attacks. And, these are people who I really don't like, and I would love to, see them maybe get arrested someday because, for doing illegal activities. But, specifically Anita Sarkeesian. But, if they really were being threatened, I can understand their actions. It's the cry wolf thing. They've done it way too much. I don't believe you.
Well, they've not only cried wolf a lot, but they've engaged in the exact same tactics. I mean,
exactly.
They threaten, they send threats, they harass, they dox. They've doxed people. They've started phone campaigns. I don't know of a whole lot of MRAs who have actually gotten anybody fired. I know a lot of feminists who have gotten people fired.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the civil rights movement. The civil rights movement was not actually very large. The amount of freedom fighters that they had was less than a dozen. And the reason why was because black people are afraid of losing their jobs. And it's exactly the same situation now. You go up against the status quo and you can lose your job because of it.
And in fact, they're putting that on display. They are actively making sure there are tweets on Twitter that are hashtagged Gamergate and hashtagged, I think it's Stop Gamergate 2014. I'd actually have to look. But anyway, that are hashtagged with those two tags and doxing lists. I saw one this morning, reported an account this morning for just tweet after tweet after tweet with names, addresses, phone numbers, workplaces, workplace phone numbers, everything. And it's being put on display like putting someone's head on a pike to warn the next group of warriors not to come near, because we'll kill you and we'll put your heads on pikes too.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, but I think we need to move to the questions.
All right.
That's okay.
Shoot. Yeah. You got the questions ready, Allison?
Yeah, I got the questions ready. I have been compiling the questions very diligently in the background.
Yay!
Yay.
Yeah, go me.
Somebody's doing their
I wanted to pull out Logical Black Guy, and he is at Logical Minority, and he says, "Hey, honey badgers, there are people on 8chan that would like for you to try to organize a debate with Anita. Are you willing?" Now, I tweeted back to him and said, "Sure, we would be willing to debate Anita. I mean, we would even just choose one of us as a champion. And then we would adorn her with all of our kerchiefs and tell her, go, slay the dragon.
Let it be me.
Right.
I love bitches.
She's not a dragon, she's a pigeon.
Okay, slay the pigeon for us.
So Karen,
Okay,
would you actually debate Anita?
I would fucking debate anybody. Okay,
I would
Dr. Christina Stasia of the University of Alberta, accepted a debate with her. She never responded, right? She months of bumping her, no response, after she tweeted all over the place that we're afraid of showing our faces, we're afraid of debate, we're afraid of being on camera, blah, 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 right?
Oh, God.
And then somebody says, "Oh, hey, I'll moderate a debate," and asks me, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure," within like 24 hours, and he bumps her for months through multiple contact points, and she doesn't even respond, right? Yeah, no, this is what they do, right?
Yeah.
I could walk up and down the street naked, saying I'm willing to debate Anita Sarkeesian. That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
No, it doesn't. In fact, I have. Ooh, there was a bad echo. All right, no, it's gone. I have. If you guys go, if anybody's listening, goes to standyourground.com/forum. There is a standing call to debate from 2005 to any feminist to debate me. And so far, briefly in 2005, I was briefly debating Hugo Schweitzer. Yeah, he sort of imploded. I guess last year would be. I don't even know how to describe it, but when it happened, it was so bad. I was like, people just look away.
Much more messy than an implosion.
Oh God,
it was spectacular and awful.
He checked himself in. He checked himself into a mental health facility for a nervous breakdown. He was on all kinds of antipsychotics. Somehow they thought it was a good idea to give him a computer, right? Or maybe his phone. And then he started sending out like a barrage of tweets admitting that he's been a fraud all this time, that he doesn't know anything about feminism. He's not qualified to teach women's studies, right? He just wanted to do it for female approval and access to young female students. Sexual
Holy
access.
shit!
Kid you not. Kid you not.
Oh my God. I did not know this.
He wanted to be the quintessential male feminist.
Yeah, he wanted to be what David Futrell wants to be, the lord of a harem of mentally disturbed women who maybe
hang on his every word.
Yeah. And and honestly, there have been some things that Hugo Schweitzer has written that I actually don't mind, right? Like there was one article in particular about the whole idea of the facial in sex. Okay. I really didn't mind that. Oddly enough, feminists went up one side of him and down the other and called him a misogynist and a disgusting pig and the whole bit because, that's degrading to women and therefore blah, blah, blah. I mean, I know, like the whole idea of semen getting on you is just degrading. It's like,
okay.
It came from a guy, but, and that makes it degrading. But, it just, that was a complete fucking, that was just a shit show.
He just melted down. It was so bad that I was like, I was in a chat with a bunch of men's rights activists. They're like, "Oh, look at this new thing he said." And I'm like, dude, let's just turn away.
Yeah.
Give him the privacy he needs to go through whatever.
Even though he wants to go through it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was so bad. Me, who, like, I guess been a long time, philosophical opponent of his, I'm like, dude, we can't watch this. Just look away. It's just don't even look, don't even watch. But I wanted to thank you, Logical Black Man, for that question.
Next question.
Or Logical Black Guy for that question. The reality is that we would do it.
I will go so far as to say that I will debate Anita Sarkeesian while adorned only in the kerchiefs of my colleagues. Right? I still don't think it's going to happen.
The favors, there would be favors, not kerchiefs, right? The favors of your fair ladies. But it's
nobody wants my kerchief. I have allergies.
We would do it. It's not, like we're not the stumbling block here. We're not the obstacle. But
it's Anita who has to accept.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Yay!
This is from Fred S. What is the most effective way of getting our message seen by the media better than that of the trolling majority? I would suggest you appeal to aliens.
What?
Yeah.
No. Okay. I would say keep up with the emails to advertisers and things like that. Show them what their employees have been doing. Show these people that fund them, especially the people who have been planting native ads and things like that. You know who hint you know who places native ads in BuzzFeed and gives them a lot of money? General Electric. Hint hint.
Yeah. If Intel was swayed by something like 150 angry emails to pull an ad campaign from Gamasutra, and this is one of the things that I think has really convinced people that feminism is a majority position, is because it really only takes 150 angry emails. And feminists are very good at organizing and working together, even if there's just very few of them, right? And putting in the effort and doing that and writing the angry emails, right? And so they're extremely effective at getting material taken down and getting things censored, right? They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. 150 angry emails convinced Intel to pull an ad campaign from Gamasutra, right? Yeah. Because of a Leigh Alexander article.
Yeah, she's crazy.
So if 150 angry emails can do that, then we need to start doing that.
Yep.
Cat.
I agree completely. Also, I would say if, besides, continuing to tweet this information, continue to be public on Facebook about it, because companies do watch those sorts of things. If you have a blog, write about it. Write about how you feel, or how it's impacted you, or how a review that you read for a game that said that it was awesome and really the game was crap. Write your own reviews and talk about how things are wrong. Just basically get your work, get it out there, make it public. Don't Absolutely. Keep it to yourself, because, again, definitely write to the companies directly. Most definitely do that. But things like blogs can be very powerful. And, maybe if some smaller, privately ran websites that run reviews or other things like that, submit your editorials or your thoughts and opinions to those places. Get it published, because again, even though the focus has been on the bigger people, the smaller people get looked at. They do get noticed and they do get read. And that's a wonderful way to get your voice heard. And then other people can see that and, like it, dislike it, make comments, etc. And that gets seen as well.
Yeah. And also, if you want to submit to Honey Badger Brigade, maybe we can help you out there if you don't have your own blog.
Well,
in terms of publishing.
Here's something that's very, very important as well. If you are going to write these blog posts or these emails, make sure that you do it in your, your standard friendly letter format. Yes. Write it out properly. If it's nothing but angry caps lock, they're not going to give a shit. They are not going to care. It has to be professional. It has to be in the proper format. Say, excuse me, I was quite distressed to find that these people were saying incredibly bad things about their user base. and outright, harassing and abusing us. That's not ethical. We really don't approve of that. So if you would kindly reconsider funding these people, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. Like, I wrote my own letter. It was a blanket letter, just saying how much I did not appreciate, just the corruption that was going on, and that as a result, I was not going to be, spending my time in those news outlets, and the games that they were promoting that were suspect, I was not going to be spending my money on. And my letter kind of went viral. In fact, I had a news place ask if they could repost it because, again, I was able to articulate my unhappiness in a professional manner. And as long as you can keep that up, you look better than the opposition. And that's really the thing. You have to look better than the opposition. They're mudslinging. You can't look like you are.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hannah. Hannah, are you having trouble?
There's a couple of things that I would add to this. One of them is just a way of thinking about, basically what the reader is to the journalist, because you're not just the person reading the stories. You're not an impassive, victim of the journalist's bias. You are the accountability meter by which journalism is measured. And I have to point out, journalism isn't some complex, mysterious thing that's untouchable. It's not something like you can study journalism in school, but you don't have to have a degree to do this. It's a very, very simple, easy to do thing. The American Press Association and the American Press Institute, defines it as the activity of gathering, assessing, creating, and presenting news and information. And they differentiate journalism from other forms of communication by citing the value of the information to the reader, that it has to come from a purpose of providing people with verified information they can use to make better decisions. And anybody can do that. You simply have to take the initiative and actually do the job. And it doesn't even have to be a thing that you do all the time. If you find something that needs to be talked about, if you find something that needs to be presented and you see it not being presented, be the journalist. And that, as much as their advertising revenue is a threat to establishment journalism, to the point where they have actually struggled to try to prevent bloggers from being recognized as journalists. And of course, the establishment in the legal end of it, and the courtrooms and everything, has done the same. But in doing that, what they've basically done is confirm the power of that form of communication. That they're recognizing that it actually does reach people. It actually is a way of spreading information that does not get looked at otherwise, and it's something that you should do. Have a blog, have a vlog, even just post a few paragraphs on Facebook, tweet stuff. When you see an article that you judge to be honest and fair, share it. So don't just, when you are holding journalists accountable, don't just worry about the ones that have done something wrong. Gamergate has actually come out and promoted journalists who are being fair and honest, and they're giving kudos to organizations that are being fair and honest. That's something that needs to continue as well.
Ooh, that was a lot of silence.
Yes, I was wondering, I'm like, someone... Okay, next question.
Just a sec.
It's ready and waiting for us. It's there. It's ready.
Yes.
And we're ready for it.
Okay, this is Jeremy Williams. I do not know how to pronounce his name, but Jeremy Whillans. How corrupt does mainstream coverage have to become before they are shut down? Shut down.
I guess it all depends on how many people they pay off first.
Well, the thing about it is it's got to become we've got to hurt their pocketbooks. Because really what they're going to do and what they're going to continue to do is do what sells. And if it doesn't sell for them to continue to push this agenda, then they're going to have to, push it out of the way. It's going to, if it makes them start to lose money, then yeah. I would even go so far as to say, if this shit is not sorted out come December, we should boycott all these wonderful games that they're trying to sell us, these corrupt companies that are involved in this collusion and shit.
What do you mean waiting? I'm already doing that.
Christmas season. Yeah, one bad Christmas season, and they would that would create a big.
They'd be fucked. They'd be fucked.
One Christmas season it can kill you in retail.
Yeah.
But,
we would fuck them.
Yeah.
We would bend them over and okay, sorry.
We got lots
over a table with a table full of various nice smelling oils and an assortment of sex toys. That's
okay. All right. On that note, let us move on.
No lube for them. No lube for them.
Okay, shush.
Hey, the oils aren't necessarily lube. It's
it's off topic. Okay,
okay, fine.
Ashland. Sarkeesian has been featured on CNN. Now, have any of you seen how the article in a major media source has dodged facts? Oh my, you guys, you people who are asking these questions, you're so sweetly innocent.
I remember the CNN appearance that Sarkeesian was on, and it was hilarious because she was literally just doing a rehash of her TED Talk. She was like, it was scripted, and then they asked her a question she wasn't expecting, and she just got this kind of stunned, deer in the headlights look, going, oh my God, I didn't have it written down what to say if they asked me this. And I mean, like, she recovered, but there was this moment where she didn't even look like she was thinking about her answer. She looked completely horrified that she wasn't prepared.
Okay, let me repeat the question because there are people asking me what the heck the question was. Basically, they're asking if we've seen how the major media source that was on CNN. I'm guessing the major media source is referring to CNN, how CNN has dodged facts. And yes, we did see that. And it's not a surprise because that's what they do.
One of the things that was interesting was HuffPo Live. They interviewed 3 women who support Gamergate just like yesterday or something. And the interviewer was getting really upset and kind of angry and pissy about their responses. And then apparently there were commenters in the comment thread who were calling him on that. And he said, and the fact that he was challenging everything that they said, and he said, well, I'm a journalist and I have to play devil's advocate and I can't just accept what they say as right and true, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there watching this and I'm saying, oh God, please, one of you 3 women, ask him how much he played the devil's advocate when he did the earlier piece that they were so upset about, right? That they tweeted madly at him and got an interview, right? Because he didn't fucking play devil's. I didn't see it, but I can guarantee you he was never playing devil's advocate in that interview.
Oh, I saw it. I fucking saw it.
He just drank it up like they all do.
Okay, guys, I'm just going to interject briefly because there is a very pertinent question of what we're talking about right now. Okay. Chad Smith says, thoughts on the second HuffPo interview with the 3 ladies?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful that I could fucking cry. It was amazing. They did not take any of his shit, and he very obviously tried.
We need a bit of context. We need context.
Oh, okay. To give you a bit of an example, he was asking them different questions about it, and he kept trying to bring it back to, isn't this misogynist, or isn't there a part of this that's sexist and stuff like that? And he kept trying to bring
these 3 ladies?
Okay, these ladies are they're okay. I think one of them is a gaming journalist. One of them is a YouTuber. Oh gosh,
game dev.
Yeah, and these people are, they're deeply involved in Gamergate. At least one of them, or both, or 2 of them, were feminists. So to sit there and start calling them misogynist or even suggest that is ridiculous. It's mind-boggling that he could even try to continue to push that narrative, even though they were sitting there and telling them, listen, if this was the case, we would not be involved in any of this. Okay,
Yeah, no,
we work in the industry, and it's simply not like this. Please do research.
Gemma was her name. She kept on saying, the constant refrain of misogyny is just getting sickening. This is not about misogyny. The only reason they are saying it's misogyny is so that they can use it as a deflection from the real issue, which is journalistic integrity, whether it's journalists and game developers exchanging money for favors or exchanging sex for advancement or whatever, right? The chummy attitude of people just doing favors for their friends and voting them.
Yeah, and she was so based. I mean, I don't remember which one of them was it, but started reading off a list of the organizations involved, the news sites the collusion. It was so beautiful. I was like,
she
yes.
Read off all of the publications that were involved in writing that coordinated series of attack articles, the dozen or so that appeared within 24 hours, that have been implicated as being a member of that private Yahoo group or whatever, right?
Yeah, well, no, I think it was a Google Plus group, and it's Game Journos Pro, and I'm surprised that they didn't actually mention that. I think that had they let them speak for longer, they probably would have gotten to that. But
I just wish they would have called him on his freaking devil's advocate bullshit, because I have not once seen a progressive media personality, right? I've seen this on the right wing, right? I have never seen this on the left wing media, right? Where any of them ever play devil's advocate to a feminist. I have seen Naomi Wolf fucking play more of a devil's advocate to a feminist while sitting on a panel, right? Than I have ever seen an interviewer in left-wing media ever play devil's advocate to a feminist interviewee. Ever.
Yeah, they simply won't allow for it to happen. It just doesn't happen, and it was ridiculous. It was very obvious that he was trying to push the narrative back at every corner back to that thing. And I remember watching the first interview, and I was so pissed because you had the founder of 8chan there, Frederick Brennan, and he's paralyzed. Well, not paralyzed. He's got, he's disabled. And, he's sitting there with his cute little pillow, and she's, like, just being terrible and sitting there and hurling all these accusations at him and telling him that that he has no knowledge of the law. And he reads verbatim the law to her and says, listen, I am perfectly within my rights. I am not responsible for everybody that posts on my site, okay? They know the rules, and I don't have to have data retention on that site at all. I'm not required to under the law. I am perfectly within my rights. And she was just like, well, don't you think that facilitates abuse and stuff like that?
And his response should have been, I don't care.
Well, the thing about it is that he didn't take her shit. The last thing he said to her was, it's not about you, Brianna. It is not all about you. And he's sitting there. He's handicapped. And he's sitting there telling her off, and she can't really, she's all like, it's just, she's very obviously furious. She's just, there's nothing she can really do about it. It was so hilarious, because if she does, she looks like a complete asshole, which she is. And oh gosh, she's been tweeting a whole lot of horrible things at people. And if you sit there and see it before she deletes them, oh gosh, it's a wonderful window into her personality and the kind of person that she actually is. I like how she started reading off a list of the people that were harassed out of gaming, and a lot of them were horrible people. She's like, they're trying to bully Leigh Alexander. Leigh Alexander can fucking handle herself, okay? She's sitting there saying that she's a megaphone and that she can destroy anybody's career on command. And she actually does that. She'll sit there and, all she has to do is make a phone call and she can destroy somebody's life. And she's a horrible human being. So for them to sit there and say, oh my gosh, Leigh Alexander is being bullied out of her job and her position. Oh, bitch, please.
One point. They are referring to calling her on her shit as harassing her out of gaming. That is hugely different from being threatened and having your employer called because you made a political statement online, not specifically about an individual, and not because you threatened anybody, but because you approve or disapprove of something online. That to actually be called on your shit, threatening people and telling people that you're going to destroy their jobs and destroy their lives, and call that harassment. That's essentially a Darvo attack. That is deny, accuse, reverse victim and offender. She's nuts.
Yeah, we'll acknowledge that she did receive death threats, but I think we really do have reason to believe that it's from the exact same person or individual that sent the Anita tweets, and we don't know who that might be yet. A lot of people have received death threats and things of that nature, and a lot of this is really to derail and to get attention. And you know what? I don't think it really matters anymore, because she sat there and shown that she wants to sit there and use this to get herself fame and everything like that, and that's what she's really interested in. She's sitting there and trying
the death threats, I didn't realize she had also had death threats, but I know that now that had to have happened after she got called on the whole megaphone thing.
Oh, no, not Leigh Alexander. I'm talking about Brianna Wu. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
No.
As far as I know, Leigh Alexander didn't get death threats.
No. Leigh Alexander hasn't received shit. And if anything, she has been responsible for a lot of the harassment and the doxing and things like that are related to Gamergate. Now, a lot of it is sitting there pointing in her direction. In fact, there was a Guardian email, that was released on the Ralph Retort, and it was to do with to the conversation about Gamergate, telling people don't respond to any of the people sending you emails or anything like that. Leigh Alexander is going to come in and talk to us and tell us what we need to say.
Okay, before you continue, there is a pertinent question on this. There was somebody who said, I don't have her name here, but it was a her. Hey, ladies, feminist bias in the mainstream media, and Gamergate thought this would be interesting. So this is a shout out to the person who sent that link, which is exactly what Rachel is talking about. So I guess I just derailed it to derail it.
It's okay, but yeah, it's something I was looking at earlier today, and that gives you some idea of just how much power Leigh Alexander has. To sit there and say, oh, she's being victimized, you guys. Meanwhile, she's sitting there and destroying people's lives, and she gets to dictate what a major publication says about an issue.
That's some serious power.
Yeah, that's beyond ridiculous right there. I don't even know what else to say about that. Next question. Really unless anybody else wants to say anything about this. Well, yeah, it's pretty hard.
A particular email from The Guardian, I love how the subject line included #KillAllMen. I love to know that, we're really up against our moral superiors.
Well, at least they're honest when nobody's looking.
They think there are moral superiors.
Well, what gets me is megalomania is one of the symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Megalomania coupled with delusions of persecution.
Oh my goodness, what does that sound like? Okay. Next question. Otter Jesus.
Also erotomania.
Otter Jesus!
Otter Jesus. Otter Jesus.
Oh,
okay.
Otter Jesus.
I love you, Otter Jesus. You're awesome.
Why do you think feminists have a problem with helping autistic men? Anti-Gamergate has been treating autistic people like poopy.
I have some suspicions about that.
What is that
and
about?
it might actually have to do with the fact that autism has in the past, and I don't know if they're still reporting it this way, but it has in the past been reported as an extreme form of male intelligence. Anything that has been referred to that way, they're going to hate. Just flat out hate.
One of the things I think that gets is that autistic people tend to be perfectly capable of compassion, right? Of caring about other people, right? They just don't have what is sort of clinically described as empathy. They have a hard time with empathy, with social cognition, with understanding how people are feeling. They care about how people are feeling. They don't want people to feel bad, but they don't necessarily understand from social cues and nonverbal cues exactly what people are feeling, right? And so they rely heavily on logic. They rely heavily on observation and predicting cause and effect, and doing it in a very sort of almost a clinical way, I think, in order to be able to navigate social relationships, right? And they tend to be extremely logical. And the enemy of feminism is logic, and the enemy of feminism is also penis. And male autistic people have both. And they don't prioritize feels over facts. They just don't. And they don't prioritize decorum over stating their case.
And they're also a group of people that could be perceived, because you perceive any kind of handicap as something that victimizes the individual, because it creates rough circumstances for the individual, even though it's not the same circumstances for every handicap. But it's a handicap that they can't exploit, because they're not necessarily, especially like the high functioning autistic person isn't disabled. They have a rough time with some things. But they're not unable to take care of themselves. They're not unable to function in society and support themselves and things like that. So it's not anything that feminists could exploit. And in particular, if they're male, they can't exploit that at all. They're used to exploiting women. So why would they even have any tolerance for it? And at the same time, it is something that it gets attention from society, that the disorder exists, or that I'm not even sure I would call it necessarily a disorder. Most of the people that I've known with it, until the challenges do become disabling. But there is a level of sympathy, because who wants to wander through life and it not as easily able to sort of navigate social scenarios. I think everybody has felt socially awkward at least once in their life, for at least one reason, and so people can identify with that a little bit. But it's not. It's a factor that can create sympathy for a person, that feminists can't exploit that sympathy.
Well, I think, too, a lot of the ability to exploit sympathy or to get sympathy relies on giving off the right emotional cues. And those come down to intuition and practice. You see, you know that there are women who can cry on cue and all of that, right? And autistic people it doesn't even occur to them to do that, I don't think, so...
Okay, I got a really simple answer to this question. It's because these people are bullies and assholes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Are an easy target. But let's move on to the next question. When are you going to engage... Okay, this is from Steak and Potatoes. When are you going to engage in open debate with feminists like Fem Frequency who seem to capitalize on feminist quote-unquote struggle? Well, we already addressed this. Whenever these feminists actually step up and, grab their balls and stop being afraid of a bunch of little girls like us.
Yeah, I just, every time I have the opportunity to talk to anybody, I do. right? And the most recent one was David Pakman, who is a progressive and a feminist and all of that. And the interview, a lot of the people in the comments were like, that was a complete debacle. And, you know, you were a shit interviewer, David, blah, blah, blah. And the whole bit. But, you know, like, I will talk to anybody. I will talk to a right-wing news radio channel. I will talk to, I would speak at an NDP, National Democratic Party in Canada, left-leaning event. I will speak to anybody. I talk to my customers.
It's just an issue of them screwing up their courage and actually not being cowards and accepting.
Challenge. That's all they have to do.
Let's move on to the next question. This is from Angry Harry. Question. Uh-oh. How do you think things will change over, say, the next 2 years?
They won't.
You don't think they'll change? I think there will be some progress.
I think they'll change.
Yeah.
Well, the trend will continue as it has been going for the last 2 years or so. It'll be creeping up still, but I don't think...
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Sam Achai sent me a message. He says, Karen is an interview slut.
I am. Totally slut. I'll do it for free. I'll suck your dick. I'll suck your dick.
Wow.
Karen will remain a slut of various sorts.
I will totally do that. I will make sweet love to their microphone for no charge. But no, I don't think things are going to change. Like the trend is not going to, it's going to be a little bit yet before, maybe another year or two yet before we start seeing a huge upswell in awareness. That's my prediction.
Well, see, the elections are coming up, at least here in the United States, and especially with the whole thing with Hillary and her saying that men, especially men in the military, don't matter, and other things like that. I think that's going to escalate the issue a bit.
Yeah, with the elections in the United States, there's a whole bunch of issues going on, and the current administration is. I just can't imagine how the Democrat Party is ever going to recover from Obama.
Well, I also, there was just yesterday a open letter written by something like a dozen Harvard law professors, basically saying the affirmative consent law is in California is a complete and utter travesty.
Wonderful.
It's unenforceable for one thing, and it's extremely it just goes against the traditions of jurisprudence in modern democracies. And so, I mean, like there is a significant amount of progress being made, but at the same time, I mean, you look at something like feminism as being a minority position where only about 25% of women even call themselves feminists, right? And a significant portion of them are going to be coffee shop feminists who actually just think it's the dictionary definition, right? And they don't know anything. They're not educated about any of this other baggage, sociological,
useful idiots,
theoretical baggage attached to it, right? But only 25% of women and a smaller number of men. And yet they still manage to have a stranglehold on all of these formal institutions and are making inroads into the informal institutions like, say, the atheism movement or the gaming industry and things like that, right?
Remember, they don't have any power.
But that's not power.
They appeal to the narrative. They appeal to the narrative that we all like, that triggers those buttons in our lizard brain. So
they absolutely do, and so
well, they also serve the purposes of politicians for various things. I mean, they'll go out and they are megaphones for just to hit the meme. They will go out and they will destroy people and they will broadcast things basically that suit the narrative that certain politicians are trying to fulfill.
Well, politicians
What
use
politician
threat
ever-
narratives, right, to get what they want. But we should probably move on to the next because
What
we're
politician
running out of time. Karen,
ever lost votes for saying, I want to protect women and children?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Karen, I'm going to move on. So Gomez, Hannah, can you ask the Badgers why they think women are able to be blind to the issues brought up by the men's rights movement? I think it's really simple.
Hey, Badgers.
Women invest in this victimhood identity, and it makes it very difficult for them to see the issues that men face. It's like it's almost a femchismo, being the bigger victim. You can see this going on with Gamergate.
Sadly, you also have to take into consideration whether or not they actually want to recognize, the plight of men and the problems that they face, and that they have just as many problems as women do because we're all human. Unfortunately, a lot of these women don't want to recognize that. They love the idea that men are not human, and so therefore there's something that they can degrade.
Well, part of me has always thought that maybe there is some truth to that kind of red pill truism or axiom that men love women, women love children, and children love puppies, right? Mm-hmm. And when the flow of good feeling and affinity and love goes in that direction, that women love themselves, they love their children and their future children, which is themselves, more than they love men. Men love women most of all, right? And so part of me wonders if that might be at play here, that women just don't have the same capacity to empathize with men as men have with women. You do not see women dying for men the way men die for women. You just don't.
Let's get Crazy Crystal in here because we're running out of time.
Yes, I would agree with that. And also, it takes self-responsibility. Like, these women would have to raise their levels of self-responsibility, and that means being uncomfortable. And most women don't want to be uncomfortable, and have to face themselves and have to actually say, oh, crap, I messed up, in a very big way. And, oh, I'm wrong in cases. We don't really have set up in our society where women are told they're wrong. They're not. And everything seems to be really gathered around this ridiculous story or myth that women are always right. They even say this jokingly. Oh, I'm always right. Like, it's so ingrained into this thing. It's like they just don't face themselves, and they don't feel like they need to as a majority and it takes being uncomfortable, and they don't want to be uncomfortable.
But the whole idea that
Karen, let's get
women are always right. They don't say that. That's what they're saying. They're saying my opinion.
Karen, okay, it's Rachel.
Yes. Okay.
So, chat windows.
Well, there. Well, the thing is that there are very subtle differences between the way men and women even interact with one another. So, what might be perceived by a woman as a guy being unfeeling or uncaring, it really is. There are a lot of different ways in which we misunderstand each other, but also on the other end, a lot of women aren't willing to bridge that gap. And then there's also the narrative that there really aren't that many differences between men and women at all. So why would they even know that there's a difference there? There are these subtle differences between men and women in the way that they think about things and communicate. Why would they even give a shit if they don't even believe it exists in the first place?
That's a really good point. And Hannah brings up a good point. Society tolerates a far greater level of selfishness from women than it does men. And it does. We will publish women's manifestos on what makes a mature man. Would we ever do the same for a man? What makes a mature woman? Would we ever consider women's maturity in terms of men's benefit, which is essentially what we're doing with the reverse. But, okay, Karen, is it quick? Can you make it quick? We got 2 minutes before we were at 5 minutes to the hour.
No. I'm done.
Okay.
All right.
We're in the final stretch. Do you want to do some of the funnier questions?
Okay, quick questions.
Okay, all right.
Quickly.
Okay. This is from Nick Goroff.
Okay.
And it was texted to Honey Badger Bite. Are you ready to rumble?
Yeah!
Always ready to rumble.
Our body is already.
Yes, our body.
I'm all draped in the favors of miladies, and I'm therefore ready to rumble.
We're moist and ready. Okay, we're.
I'm oiled up and ready to go.
Darren shall soon do the dance of the veils and the smacking of asses.
It'll actually be like the veils
Don't
are
clap.
actually like gym towels that are slightly damp, and as I
Okay.
take them off, I'll.
Okay,
Just
next
remember,
question,
don't
next
cup.
question.
Okay,
Next
I think we're pretty much at the end of it. I don't think we can get another question, and unfortunately, the other questions that were texted to us were sort of they were off topic.
Were they racy?
Well, no, they weren't racy. Quiet,
Aw.
down, girl.
Aw.
They weren't racy, but if before we go out, I will do the plug for Patreon. Are we all ready for that?
Oh,
Ready.
oh, yeah, but we also need to mention that right now, A Voice for Men is also offering a $3,000 reward, unless it's been altered since, for information leading to the capture of the person who made the Utah University threats against Anita Sarkeesian.
The capture.
So yeah, there's that.
And also probably
An arrest.
Yeah, the capture and the arrest of the actual person who did it. So if your information is completely useless, then it's not useful.
No.
You're not going to get the money. It's got to lead to their arrest.
Yes, it has to. It has to lead to somewhere.
They're charging.
And if you like this show, and you want us to actually eventually produce more content, I'm just throwing that out there. I just as
Beat
a
our
feeling.
cats.
Yes, your cats. I have no fucking clue what she just said, but anyway.
Our cats.
Jesus. Okay.
Stop
You're right.
interrupting, Rachel.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I had too much coffee today.
Okay. So if you
Here
come
we-
this far, and definitely this far after we've just sort of waded into the reeds at the end of the show here, consider coming a little bit further and helping us spread the message of evil, which is us. We are evil. As you've probably ascertained by listening to us for the last 2 hours, we are very, very evil people. And we believe horrible things, like the idea that men have issues too, and that they should be addressed. And that men's issues don't take away from
Disgusting human being.
I know. I every day I try to wash the filth out, but it just doesn't come out.
That's because you were born filth.
Yes, I was. Yeah, Karen. I know.
You and your filthy hamster outfit.
Yes, I know. I'm a filthy.
I want to see more of that.
it was
by the way.
cute.
All right.
adorable.
It kind of gets me hot.
So if you like our message of filthy evil equity between men and women, and actually a harmonious look at between the sexes, and recognizing that when you hurt women you hurt men, when you hurt men you hurt women, and it really isn't. There is no zero-sum game going on here, except in the feminist imagining.
Oh, apparently the reward is now up to $5,500. So yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. So if you have any information, but let me finish
If I
this.
had hacker skills, I'd go looking.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I gave myself 5 minutes to get through.
Hey,
this.
we don't condone doxing, you guys. Can't.
No doxing.
Doxing to the
Hey,
police.
we're talking about
legitimate
hunting down a
for
person who committed a crime here.
2
Are you
minutes.
listening?
Okay. Finish, Allison. Finish.
All right. So if you want to donate to us, I don't know why the hell you would want to after all of that shit. But anyway, go to our patron page. I'm losing us all our patrons. Patreon.com, patreon.com/honeybadgerradio, and consider donating to us. If you donate $30 a month total for each episode, I don't know how that will break down with each episode, but whatever, if it's $30 a month, we're going to start up a private scat. Forget
Sky?
that.
What?
Oh, God,
Did you
that's
say scat? Allison, you're gonna feel. Oh, God damn it, Allison.
Private scat with us.
You're
No
losing your shit.
There's no scat. That was a mistake. Erase that from your minds. Skype chat with us.
There,
And
that
you
put
have
the
direct
actual.
line into the nerve center of the badgers.
That's sketchy.
Okay. And if you donate $50 a month or above, we will be doing some sort of Google Plus thing with you, which may or may not involve damp towels. Probably not. Maybe.
That sounds vaguely
See,
obscene.
how can you say no to that? Badgers and damp towels. I mean, come on. That's worth $50 a month, right?
Oh God! Somebody is texting scat chat. No,
Damn, Allison, we're never gonna live that down now.
I know.
That's the beauty of it, is that we're never gonna live it
See,
down.
now we're just gonna get fecal-philiacs interested in us.
Oh, it's getting worse and worse. End it. Cut it. Cut.
All right.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.